But why isn't Tom DeLay bringing up the issue that the complaint was brought by a political opponent?
Most likely his attorney has fed him a story. But I can't speculate.
Well, I mean, I've had Dick DeGuerin on a few times. He defended the Waco folks. He's a pretty good guy.
But he lost.
Well, that's because because the judge that ran the Waco operation was over the court. I mean, the judge that was over the criminal trial was over the civil.
Yep. I didn't understand. I had heard good about Dick DeGuerin. I didn't understand why he didn't look at this and say, this is an absolute open door to get this thrown out. Unless he had a strategy I didn't know about, which was bring this up at trial and force a dismissal at trial. That way they can't come back after it.
And that might be why he's mad at you for disclosing his secret weapon.
He could have told me.
Well, he doesn't know you're out there, Randy.
I really didn't care about his position.
No, I understand. You're just pointing out the due process and how they're violating that.
I'm concerned about what they're doing to you and me and everybody. In Texas, average conviction rate, 99.6. Would you recognize a police state if you were in one? The United States houses approximately 3% of the world's population. It houses approximately 50% of the world's population of inmates. Would you recognize a police state if you were in one? This is the worst police state the world has ever seen, and we don't have a clue. That's why I'm going after this.
Well, it is crazy how they selectively prosecute innocent people and then leave corrupt people alone. Have you heard about this Jack Conway case where his brother is a prosecutor? He's the Attorney General of Kentucky running against Rand Paul. And they were going to SWAT team his brother for reported narcotics trafficking and usage. That was the alleged thing. And then the head narcotics officer warned his brother and then warned Conway. And then his brother and the detectives lied to other investigators. And now they admit all this in the newspaper, but it's not a big issue. That sounds like obstruction of justice.
This is something that citizens need to go down to grand juries with criminal charges against these guys. The nice thing about criminal charges, you're absolutely protected if you file criminal charges. Anyone who interferes with you, they wind up with criminal charges against them. We don't have time on this show, but I have a whole process for going after one person, and when someone steps in the way and tries to protect them, you forget the first one and go for the second one. And eventually you want to go for a district judge and drag the district judge down to the grand jury. And when you get the district judge to the grand jury for protecting the district attorney from prosecution, the district judge is going to be really unhappy with the district.
But how can they be in the newspaper admitting they lied and admitting they warned him, and then they're not instantly indicted?
They're not afraid of us. Thomas Jefferson said, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. The government does not yet fear the people.
Well, that's like these mortgages, and now we'll start getting into that. I mean, with these mortgages, they're just out in the open, Randy, like that lawyer said, just engaged in total fraud, and they know it.
Yes, they bought the courts. And what I tell people when I present this, courts are absolutely corrupt. You sue in the court, you sue pro se, they're going to rule against you at every turn. You have to expect that. They are so corrupt.
But why are people having victory, though, even though that's happening? You're forcing them to fight it, and they've got so many things they're stealing, they don't have time to deal with it. But then if you go back at them and sue them, but I mean, look at these cases here, Randy. It's all over the Wall Street Journal. They're winning these cases against the banks.
Here's the problem with the guys who bought the judges. The judges are so corrupt, they can't even trust them. Politics, there's three kinds of power. Politics, money, and votes.
And guns.
And guns. Right now, votes are becoming the big issue for the politicians. The politicians are exerting influence on the courts, and the courts are betraying the ones that bought them. And they're setting a precedent for down the road. Once this election is over, every member of the House of Representatives is up for election. They're going in with 11% approval rating. They can hear the toilet flushing. They're doing everything they can to distract the public from them and get them looking at some other enemy, while the politicians who created this mess put on a show of trying to do something to clean it up. just long enough for us to vote for them so they can go back to business as usual. Their problem is, once they open this legal door, they set the precedent. They get this train on the track and they can't get it off.
The precedent for banks to take anybody's property they want is one precedent, or the precedent that people have started to win, and now people understand it's a fraud.
Yes, and I read some figures on the judges' retirement funds are also invested in these consumer mortgages. The funds values have went from $6.8 billion to $2.3 billion in the last 4 years.
So the judges have been robbed.
So now the judges are realizing that they screwed themselves. And now they need to do something to find a way to recover. And we have a number of unions and other retirement investment funds that are suing the lenders to try to recover some of these monies that they've lost.
Okay, we've given some of the basics. In the next few segments, I want you to go through your document cam presentation, but we're about to go to break. We've got the free video streams again today up at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com that we do every once in a while. We've been doing a little bit more lately because this is also important so people can actually see these graphs and information. It'll all then be archived at PrisonPlanet.tv a few hours after the show ends. We're going to break in 1 minute, Randy. I want you just to hurriedly go through the facts and figures because you're about to show people the fraud. First, they've got to see the fraud. Then you'll talk about the remedies that have been having the most success.
Yes. The Glass-Steagall Act was the start. In the 80s and 90s, Bush and then first Clinton and then Bush removed the Glass-Steagall Act and another act that protected borrowers from the lenders. Well, under the guise of making housing available to the poor, they took these protections off. And about the same time, they started securitizing notes. Well, this created an opportunity for people to go into business as mortgage companies, and they didn't care about the mortgage. They create the mortgage and sell it. They get their money, take profit, walk away. So it made it profitable to sell these to investors. And the more expensive the loan product, the more profit they made.
All right, we're going to explain all this and then get into all the facts, figures, and numbers. Folks, the mortgages are nothing. That's just the beginning, the root of the fraud. Randy's a pro se litigant having a lot of big success keeping people in their houses, teaching them how to defend themselves. That's the secret, because you heard the law firm earlier. They got more business than they can even take. And there's other law firms learning, other individuals learning, how to demand due process, how to not just be rolled over. And by everybody resisting, or even a small percentage resisting, that's already brought them to a grinding halt. Randy, on the document cam for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers, we're going to be going over these charts and graphs. We got a free video link. It's what everybody gets every day if they're a PrisonPlanet.tv member. Adds a whole new dimension to the show. What's this first graph we've got here? This
first graph is a graph of housing prices for the last 100 years. And you can see there was a rather large drop around the end of the turn of the century. The last two peaks, there was a peak in the 20s, a peak in the 40s, then it dropped down, and in the year 2000, the graph went almost straight up. And there's a reason for that. We can go back, and it's hard to see on the graph, but there's a drop down in 1907, and that drop down was caused because people were allowed to bet on stocks whether they would increase or decrease without actually purchasing the stock. That was called derivatives. It caused the stock market crash in 1907, so the legislature forbade it.
That's right here.
They forbade the practice, made it a felony, until the year 2000. The year 2000, they removed that restriction. So with the Glass-Steagall Act gone and government oversight of the lenders is non-existent, they essentially unleashed the money changers on us, convincing everybody to do the one thing that had always been forbidden, and to speculate on their home, and to take their good, stable loans in which they were building equity and trade them in for speculative loans that they would possibly make a lot of money on. But in the end, something else could happen which they didn't tell them about. And the easiest way to visualize is turn that graph upside down, because that's what has actually happened to the lending industry. That's a graph of property sales, which reflects property prices. We'll get prices in a second. But Since 2008 is where the graph starts down, or that was 2007, it starts down. This one ends at 2008, and it's done nothing but get worse since. Let's go to the one in the back, this one. This is an indication, this is a graph of percent homeowners with mortgage negative equity by state. The very first state there is Nevada. From Nevada, we go to Arizona, Florida, Michigan, California. Michigan, if you go to Detroit, it looks like a war zone.
We've been there. It looks like, I mean, I can't even describe it. It looks like one of those movies where everybody's dead on the planet, kind of like I Am Legend or something, and there's just nobody there.
Nobody there. This is going to happen even more. What's happening right now is the banks are foreclosing on so many homes, they can't sell them. They have to take them back. They can't sell them into the market because it'll drive the prices of housing down so much that the housing industry will collapse completely. They already have every state with a good number of people upside down on their mortgages. If they repossess these houses and then put them back out there for sale, this graph will increase exponentially. What we're looking at is a major housing shortage very soon. While nobody's building houses now. All construction is ceased. The only construction that's going on is what's already been funded. Can't afford to build houses now. I have a number of friends, construction industry, it's completely shut.
No, it's down by over 90%. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.